Amazing grandmother escapes her son-in-law's car after a heartwarming warning from her daughter. Evelyn's heart raced as she perched on the edge of her antique chair, her fingers trembling in anticipation. She could practically hear the echoes of laughter that once filled her home. Her vibrant spirit was locked away in the cage of overprotection built by Greg, her son-in-law, who insisted that her adventurous days were numbered. The irony made her chuckle, as if age could extinguish the flames of joy that flickered within her. The scent of apple pie wafted through the air, a signature of her love, a warm hug to anyone who stepped into her cozy kitchen. But today, that love felt heavy, suffocated by Greg's unyielding vigilance. He kept her close, forbidding her from visiting the grocery store or attending community gatherings, believing he was acting in her best interest. Yet, with each passing day, Evelyn's heart ached to bask in the freedom of her vibrant neighborhood, to feel the sun on her skin and see friends whose smiles had become distant memories. In the living room, Evelyn overheard Sarah, her beloved daughter, reminiscing. "Mom taught us resilience," Sarah said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. As she listened, Evelyn felt a spark inside her. Those weren't just words, they were a call to arms, a reminder of the independence that danced in her soul like the flicker of a candle flame. That evening, during dinner, as they gathered around the table laden with Evelyn's lovingly baked pie, she began her gentle rebellion. "You know, Greg, too much caution can smother someone you love," she suggested, her voice calm but tangled with fervor. But Greg, with furrowed brows and protective instincts blazing, clung to the idea that he must safeguard her every step. "Evelyn, it's just not safe," he replied, his tone resolute. But Evelyn caught a glimmer of unease in his eyes, a flicker of doubt she aimed to fan into flame. The air crackled with tension that evening. Just when Evelyn thought she could reclaim her independence, Greg blocked her path as she declared her intent to join friends at the bakery, an old routine painted with warmth and laughter. Tension filled the space, their voices rising like a storm threatening to break. "Mom, you have to believe in yourself," Sarah whispered urgently, leaning closer. "You are stronger than any situation." Her words ignited a fierce rebellion in Evelyn's heart, a reminder of the stories she used to tell, of brave women who refused to be confined by circumstance. With a renewed resolve, Evelyn summoned all her courage. In a flash, she slipped past Greg's grasp, the cool evening air a miraculous reward as she dashed into the night. Freedom flooded her senses, every step lighter than the last. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As she approached the bakery, the aroma of fresh pastries wrapped around her, a sweet embrace she had long missed. But with freedom came uncertainty. Would Greg pursue her, angered by her defiance? And what will happen to Sarah, the bridge between her mother's spirit and her husband's fear? Evelyn left those worries lingering as she stepped inside the bakery, a world alive with warmth and familiar faces. She could feel them welcoming her back. Would this moment of reckless joy lead her to the independence she yearned for, or would it deepen the familial rift that had begun to form? The thrill of rebellion thrummed in her heart, and she knew this journey was just beginning. The bell jingled softly as Evelyn stepped into the bakery, and the warmth enveloped her like a soft blanket. She inhaled deeply, her spirit tingling at the familiar scent of cinnamon and freshly baked bread. The room was bustling, filled with the cheerful chatter of neighbors and the clinking of cups. At that moment, she felt alive, an electric rush coursing through her veins, reminding her of who she truly was. "Evelyn!" A voice called out. It was Martha, her old friend, her eyes brightening with recognition. "You made it." With a quick shuffle, Martha approached, arms wide open. They embraced, years of friendship wrapping around them like a comforting shawl. "I had to." Evelyn smiled, feeling lighter. "I've missed you all so much." Martha, an older gentleman at the counter, chimed in, How's your award-winning pie recipe coming along? The group gathered around, laughter bubbling like soda pop, and for the first time in a long time, Evelyn felt herself belonging again. As they exchanged stories, holding their steaming mugs, Evelyn couldn't help but notice their kindness and swift acceptance. No one questioned where she had been or why she'd stayed away. They simply embraced her presence. It felt like coming home, but beneath her joy lurked an undercurrent of anxiety. Greg hadn't chased after her yet, but the thought of his rage was a dull throb in her mind. Here she was, breaking free, yet she couldn't shake the weight of the consequences that might follow. What if he decided he'd had enough of her defiance? What if he told Sarah it was her fault? "Mom, is everything okay?" Sarah's familiar voice cut through her thoughts. Evelyn turned to see her daughter standing at the entrance, out of breath but wide-eyed. "Everything is wonderful, sweetheart," Evelyn exclaimed, forcing a smile that felt both exuberant and fragile, like a butterfly's wings. "But I saw you leave." Sarah's face twisted with concern. "I thought you were in trouble." "I just needed some air," Evelyn replied, taking a step closer. She was desperate to shield her daughter from the cracks forming in their family structure. "I'm okay. I promise." But behind Sarah's eyes was a spark of worry, flickering with unspoken questions. The bakery buzzed around them, but their exchange felt like an island amidst the crowd. "You must understand, Mom. I love you, and I want you to be happy," Sarah said, her voice softening. "But Greg, he's scared. He's trying to protect you." "And I appreciate that," Evelyn said, a tinge of bitterness threading her tone, "but I don't need protection. I need freedom, Sarah. We can't keep living under this shroud of fear." The air between them thickened, a point of tension as the laughter of the bakery dimmed in the background. Evelyn watched her daughter's expression shift, the weight of choice pressing down on them both. "Mom," Sarah whispered urgently, catching the eye of a few friends who had started to notice their hushed conversation. "Please, let us not worry them. Let us just go home. We can talk about this no." Evelyn felt the fire ignite inside her again, rising up to meet the physical pulse of the room. "I want to embrace life, for once. Don't you see?" She glanced around, voices quieting, attention shifting. The room was suddenly all ears. What came next felt out of her reach, yet inevitable. Would her outcry ignite not just her own freedom, but ignite her daughter's courage to see the truth? Could this spark change everything? With a hope flickering, Evelyn caught her breath, knowing that one moment of bravery could reshape their lives. Then, in that tremulous beat of silence, she wondered if this was just the beginning of a fiery transformation, or would it tear her family apart when they needed each other most? Evelyn's heart raced as the soft murmurs of the bakery faded into the background, replaced by the weight of her daughter's gaze. The shift in Sarah's expression felt monumental, as if they were both teetering on a precipice, and with a few words, they could either leap into freedom or plunge into despair. "I don't want you to be scared," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I just want things to go back to normal." "Normal?" Evelyn echoed, a bitter taste creeping into her mouth. "Is living in fear what we call normal now?" She took a step closer to her daughter, the surrounding warmth suddenly feeling too stifling. "We might be okay at home, but that doesn't mean we're happy." The strength in Sarah's eyes wavered. "But Mom, what if it gets worse if you push him?" Evelyn wanted to reach out and shake her daughter awake. "Didn't Sarah see? You have to trust me, honey. I won't let his fear control me anymore." She took a deep breath, casting a glance at the regulars who were once again too interested in their pastries to focus on the storm brewing between them. Outside, the wind howled against the building, its intensity mirroring the turmoil inside. The last remnants of sunlight poured through the window, wrapping them in a golden hue, though Evelyn felt its warmth was slipping away. She had tasted freedom's sweet like the cinnamon rolls they served, but now it hung just out of reach, threatened by a dark cloud of anxiety. "Mom," Sarah pleaded, her voice cracking. "I can't lose you to this. I can't." The sincerity in her daughter's eyes pierced through Evelyn. Here was the truth. Fear was contagious. And as much as she longed to break free, she couldn't risk unraveling the delicate fabric that held them together. At that moment, however, another voice rose above the gentle clinking and chatting, a deep, familiar voice that made Evelyn's blood run cold. "Evelyn?" It was Greg, standing at the entrance, his presence like a storm cloud breaking through a sunlit sky. "What are you doing here?" Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. She turned to Sarah, who looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, her eyes wide and filled with dread. "Oh no," Sarah breathed, glancing at her mother, who stood frozen, torn between the embrace of old comfort and the pain of new choices. "Didn't you think I'd come looking for you?" Greg's voice was a tight line of controlled anger. The cozy chatter of the bakery faded into an uneasy silence, the regulars suddenly drawn into the awkwardness. "I was just," Evelyn started, every instinct in her wanting to run. Run far away from him, from the consequences of her choices, but her own feet felt cemented to the ground. "Just what?" Greg stepped inside, his hand curling into a fist at his side. "You think you can just leave?" "Mom," Sarah urged, her panic spilling into her words. "Don't engage. Please, we should go now." The tension in the air felt electric, crackling like a live wire. Evelyn's heart was racing, the stakes higher than ever. Would she stay and fight for her newfound freedom, or would she fold under the weight of Greg's expectations and her daughter's fears? As Greg closed the distance between them, Evelyn felt the walls closing in. In that heartbeat of hesitation, something inside her shifted. It was as if the voices of everyone she loved merged into a battle cry, a call for courage, and then she made her decision. "I'm done being afraid," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. But what she didn't expect was the sharpness of her own defiance to break completely against the battleground they stood on, and to resonate far beyond the bakery walls. Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest, echoing the uncertainty swirling around her. Greg stepped closer, the fear in Sarah's eyes reflecting a truth Evelyn could no longer deny. She had to be strong, for herself and for Sarah. The warmth of the bakery now felt suffocating, as if it were trying to trap her again. "Why are you doing this?" Greg's voice dripped with disdain. "You think you're going to change things? You've got it good. Why risk it?" Evelyn could feel the weight of his presence pressing down on her. He thought he was strong, but his power came from her fear. She clenched her fists, forcing back the tremors rising in her hands. "No one has a right to keep me in fear. Not you, not anyone." Greg's mouth twisted into a sneer, unmistakable rage flickering in his eyes. "You think you can just walk away? After everything I've done for you?" Her breath caught as she absorbed his words. Everything he had done felt like chains clanking against her spirit, holding her back from who she wanted to be. "You have done nothing but scare us. You don't own me, Greg." He laughed, but it was a hollow sound, void of genuine amusement. The regulars turned their eyes away, pretending to be busy with their pastries but unable to escape the gravitational pull of the confrontation. "Mom, we should really go," Sarah said softly, her voice strained with worry. Evelyn looked at her daughter, the frantic whispers almost begging her to retreat. She saw a mixture of fear and fierce hope in Sarah's eyes. They were in this together, and for the first time, Evelyn couldn't let fear choose for her or for Sarah anymore. "Greg," she began, her voice rising, filling the room with an unexpected steadiness, "no more threats. No more bullying. It ends here." His eyes narrowed. She thought she saw a flicker of uncertainty, an inkling that he might not be as powerful as he wished to appear. Perhaps he had calculated that she would always be obedient. Maybe this was a turn on that path towards liberation. "Evelyn," he hissed, "you're making a mistake you'll regret. You think you can just defy me? I'm the one with the power here. I don't want your kind of power." Her words became louder, echoing through the bakery. "I choose to stand for myself and for my daughter. All your power is built on lies. And it ends today." She looked at Greg, her heart racing as the shoppers around them began to murmur, sharing sideways glances. A small audience was forming, their breath collectively held. Then it happened. Something within her shifted, a light sparking in her soul. It was the realization that this wasn't just about Greg, this was about breaking the cycle of fear that had gripped her family for too long. As Greg stepped forward again, anger twisting his features, Evelyn stood her ground. "You don't intimidate me anymore. I've taken enough of this normal and it's suffocating." "Evelyn," he said, his voice now tinged with desperation, "you're ruining everything." "You Mom," Sarah implored, stepping closer. "Don't let him get to you." That call snapped a clarity into focus. Evelyn turned to Sarah, courage stirring like a warm current between them, bonding them against the storm. "Come on, Sarah. Let us walk out of here together," Evelyn said, taking her daughter's hand. At that moment, Greg's anger morphed into something dangerous, eyes wide with disbelief. "You think you can just leave? You're not strong enough to do this." With a final squeeze of her daughter's hand, Evelyn's voice rang out with newfound conviction. "I am strong enough. And together, we can conquer anything." But with every step she took towards the door, she felt Greg's presence lingering behind her like a shadow that wouldn't fade. Outside, the wind howled, but the weight of the world felt a touch lighter. As they reached the door, Greg's voice surged again, cutting through the quiet whispers around them. "You'll be back. They always come back." Evelyn paused, glancing back at him, and that flicker of doubt suddenly sparked into a fire in her chest. Would she really turn back? Would they always end up back in the shadows? "Not this time," she said firmly. But the tension lingered in the air like a persistent ache, leaving an unsettling question hovering above their heads. What price would freedom demand from her? And as they stepped out into the crisp evening air, a jarring realization settled in. The fight was far from over. The chill of the evening air wrapped around Evelyn and Sarah as they stepped outside, the last remnants of warmth from the bakery fading behind them. The street felt different, more alive and less constricting. It was as if the world outside was holding its breath, waiting for them to reclaim their lives. Evelyn looked down at Sarah, whose small hand felt solid and reassuring in hers. "Are we really free now, Mom?" Sarah's voice trembled with hope and uncertainty, pulling Evelyn from her thoughts. Evelyn took a deep breath, savoring the cool breeze against her skin. "Yes, sweetheart. We just took the first step." But deep down, doubt loomed. Greg's words replayed in her head. "You'll be back." The prediction left a bitter taste in her mouth. What if he was right? They walked a little farther, the lively chatter of the street mingling with streetlights buzzing overhead. People passed them, some glancing with curiosity, others with barely a notice. As they neared their car, a dark figure loomed ahead. Greg, standing leaning against the hood, arms crossed, he looked more menacing in the fading light. Evelyn felt a knot form in her stomach. "What does he want?" she whispered, the fear creeping back. "I don't know, Mom," Sarah replied, her grip tightening around Evelyn's hand. Evelyn's mind raced. She couldn't let him control their lives anymore. "Stay behind me," she instructed, channeling every ounce of bravery she could muster. Together, they approached the car, each step heavier than the last. "Going somewhere, ladies?" Greg's voice oozed with mock concern. "You think you can just walk away and leave everything behind? You're making a mistake." Evelyn opened her mouth, ready to lash out before she caught herself. She needed to stay calm. "I'm not afraid of you anymore, Greg. You should be." His smile was sharp, as cold as the steel of the car he leaned against. "You don't know what I'm capable of." Her heart raced, not from fear but from something else, defiance. "You should understand now. I won't let you intimidate us any longer." He scoffed, stepping closer. "You think you can fearlessly defy me? I doubt that. A woman like you." Suddenly, Sarah stepped forward, her voice surprisingly strong. "Not a woman like my mom. She's changed. You can't keep her down anymore." Evelyn's heart swelled. Sarah was so brave today, standing up against the monster they had shared for too long. Evelyn felt a rush of pride. Greg's expression faltered for just a moment, confusion flickering in his eyes. You think you're so clever? He leaned in, the threat palpable. Come on, Eve. You know I can make your lives miserable. Evelyn swallowed hard, the urge to back down almost overwhelming. You will try, and we will fight back. You don't get to control us. Not anymore. Greg hesitated, and it felt like the air thickened with an electric tension. Was this the moment when everything would change? I'll make you regret this, he warned, but the edge in his voice lacked conviction, like a script he no longer believed in. Evelyn straightened up, filling the space with her newfound strength. She felt the fear slip away, replaced by hope. You can't scare us anymore. Your hold is broken. Closing the remaining distance, she shoved the car door open, startling Greg as she gestured for Sarah to get in. Mom, Sarah said hesitantly, glancing at Greg. Go, sweetheart. Now. Evelyn urged, voice steady. Sarah climbed inside, and for a moment, Evelyn stood her ground, facing Greg. As the door swung shut, she felt a surge of adrenaline. Remember, you're not the only one with power. With that, she jumped into the car, locking the door. The engine roared to life as they sped away, leaving the past and Greg in their wake, but the freedom came with a burning question. What would Greg do next? Would he lash out, and how far would he go to reclaim control? The road ahead stretched into the unknown, but at least it was theirs now. And as they drove, Evelyn could feel the thrill of liberation mixed with the dread of what lay ahead. Would they finally be free, or was this just the beginning of a new fight? Evelyn pressed down on the accelerator, each bump in the road jolting her senses back to the moment. The scenery blurred as they drove through the darkening streets, the glow from the dashboard lighting up worried furrows on her forehead. Mom, what if he comes after us? Sarah asked, her small voice a thread of tension running through the car. Evelyn glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Greg's looming figure in pursuit. He won tea, she said, though uncertainty gnawed at the edges of her resolve. We're safe now. We have each other and that's what matters. The words felt good to say, even if she wasn't completely sure they were true. She wouldn't let Greg's shadow follow them tonight. There would be no turning back. But as they entered the quieter streets lined with tall trees, their shadows danced mockingly, whispering memories of feelings long repressed. Can we go somewhere, Mom? Sarah's voice broke through, a mix of innocence and hope. Like a park? Or maybe get some ice cream? I want to celebrate. Evelyn turned toward her daughter, the edges of her mouth just beginning to lift. Ice cream sounds perfect, sweet pea. We deserve a treat tonight. Sarah's eyes sparkled as they approached the familiar ice cream shop, but the weight of their situation darkened her youthful excitement. Though they sat inside the cocoon of their car, the fear of what was left behind lingered, unraveling the moment. Can we sit outside? Sarah asked, eyes wide as they parked. I want to feel the breeze. Okay, let us do it, Evelyn replied, trying to push aside her own anxiety. They walked over, hand in hand, and settled at a small table nestled under the illuminated awning. The shop exuded warmth, both from the lights glowing inside and the tantalizing smell of sugar and waffles wafting through the air. As they waited for their orders, Sarah swung her legs excitedly. I can't believe we finally got away from him, Mom. It's like a dream. Evelyn smiled, but doubt cast a shadow over her face. It is a dream, but we have to be careful. Are you scared? Evelyn hesitated. A little. But I'm more proud of you for standing up to him today. You were so brave. Just like you, Sarah beamed, flicking her hair back. It was so innocent, so pure. But the moment was brief. Before they could linger in their bubble any longer, the bell above the door chimed loudly. Evelyn turned to see Greg walk in, eyes scanning the room. Her heart dropped as the familiar dread crept back in. Mom. Sarah whispered urgently, clutching her hand tighter. Stay calm, Evelyn whispered, her voice barely audible. She didn't want to attract attention. But terror gripped her, causing adrenaline to spike through her veins. Greg's gaze landed on them, and for a split second, he held it, a mix of surprise and fury darkening his features. He looked like a predator, a man who had lost his prey only to find it right in front of him again. "Run," Evelyn mouthed to Sarah, but before they could move, Greg stepped outside with purpose. "Evelyn," his voice carried across the patio, low and dangerous. "You thought you could hide?" Evelyn stood, adrenaline coursing, ready to shield her daughter. "Leave us alone, Greg." He chuckled darkly, yet there was something wavering in his confidence. "You think this is over? You don't know what I'm capable of." "Maybe I do," she managed to retort. And as Greg moved closer, a flicker of doubt crossed his face, leaving room for change. Was this their moment? Would he finally bend under the weight of her defiance? But just then, a voice broke the tension. "Hey! Is everything okay here?" Came an unfamiliar figure from the ice cream shop, a good-natured employee who approached with concern etched on his face. Greg turned, momentarily distracted, and that fleeting moment became their opening. "Let us go, Sarah," Evelyn commanded, her heart pounding as they sprinted for the car. They hopped inside, slamming the doors shut as Evelyn turned the key in the ignition. "Mom, drive," Sarah cried, her face pale. With the engine roaring to life, Evelyn shot forward, leaving Greg in the dust. The relief of escape washed over her, but that sense of fleeting safety gave little comfort. "Where do we go now?" Sarah asked, her voice quivering. Evelyn had no answers. The road stretched out ahead of them like an uncharted map, and every mile felt utterly uncertain. "Maybe we should call Grandma," Sarah offered, a spark of hope shining in her eyes. "Yeah, maybe we should. She's always been strong. Maybe she can show us how to be free." As they drove away into the night, the looming questions weighed on Evelyn's heart. Would they find safety in family? Or was freedom just an illusion? Each turn felt like uncharted territory, a new beginning, or perhaps, the groundwork for a deeper fight awaited them. But as the night deepened and the city lights faded in the rear view, one thing became clear: this was just the beginning. What would it take to finally sever the ties that had bound them for so long? Evelyn's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles turned white against the dim light of the dashboard. The road twisted and turned ahead, a serpent winding through the darkness, shrouded in uncertainty. Beside her, Sarah's small form was tense, her wide eyes darting to the windows, as if expecting Greg to appear at any moment. "Mom, what if he finds us?" Sarah's voice was small, shaky. "Then we'll keep running," Evelyn replied, swallowing the fear that threatened to surface. "We're not turning back. Not now." But the words felt heavy on her tongue, a promise made in good faith, yet gnawed by doubt. They drove in silence for a while, the hum of the engine filling the void. The familiar roads slipped away, replaced by desolate and unfamiliar territory. Every turn of the wheel felt daunting, like entering a new chapter with no safety net beneath. "Can we really go to Grandma's?" Sarah ventured, glancing at her mother, seeking reassurance. "I haven't seen her in forever." "Yes," Evelyn nodded, her mind racing through the possibilities. "She'll help us. She always knows what to do." In the back of her mind, though, a nagging voice whispered of the past, a life entwined with Greg, filled with turmoil and tension. Grandma was anchored in a different era of Evelyn's life, one where she believed love was stronger than fear. Would she understand what they had endured? Would she stand with them against Greg? "Mom?" Sarah's voice broke her thoughts. "Yes, sweet pea? You're thinking about what he said, aren't you?" Evelyn turned to her daughter, the ghost of sorrow flashing in her eyes. "Just a bit. But remember, we're free now. We left him behind." Sarah nodded, trying to absorb the weight of those words. "And we'll be okay?" The question hung in the air like a fragile promise. Would they really be okay? Minutes later, as they neared Grandma's house, the familiar light gleamed in the distance like a lighthouse beacon guiding them home. Evelyn could almost taste the warmth of her mother's hugs and feel the safety of being among family. She stepped on the gas a little harder, urgency pushing her forward. As they pulled into the driveway, Evelyn's heart raced. "Stay close to me," she instructed, barely able to suppress her anxiety. The front porch light flickered on, and movement stirred behind the curtain. Then there she was. Grandma stepped outside, her silver hair shining like a halo in the night. She wore a floral house dress that smelled faintly of lavender. Her expression shifted from surprise to concern as she hurried down the steps. Evelyn threw open the car door, stepping out onto the gravel. "Mom!" she called, her voice catching in her throat as relief washed over her. "Evelyn!" Grandma rushed forward and enveloped her in a hug, warmth spilling over like a radiant sun, illuminating the fear-darkened corners of her heart. "Grandma, we need your help," Sarah said, her voice solemn, but as they stood there, holding each other tightly, Evelyn felt a flicker of doubt creep back. Would they find the courage against the dark forces they had fled? Suddenly, her phone buzzed loudly in her pocket, shattering the fragile moment. Her heart sank. "Who is it?" Grandma asked, pulling back from the embrace, concern etched on her face. Evelyn didn't want to look. All her instincts screamed against it. But her hand trembled as she pulled her phone out. One glance at the screen stole her breath. It was a text from Greg. "You think I'd let you go that easily?" The chill of dread washed over her once again. Evelyn looked into her mother's worried eyes. "He's not done with us, is he?" The thought hung there, heavy with implication. Would they ever really escape? In that instant, beneath the comforting glow of the porch light, the dark reality snuck back in. Just as they had thought they found solace, a truth loomed larger. "How do we fight him?" Sarah whispered, barely audible through the rising anxiety. Evelyn clenched her jaw, determination flaring up within her. "We will fight, together. But first, we need to find a plan." As they stood there, staring into the night, an oppressive weight settled over them. Did they have what it would take to stand their ground this time? Uncertainty loomed, but within it, a spark of resilience ignited. There was no way they would let fear dictate their lives any longer. What would their next move be? And could they summon the strength to face Greg one last time? Evelyn's heart raced as she stared at her phone, Greg's words pulsing in her mind like a warning bell. Her breath gnawed at the edges of resolve. It was so easy to feel hope, but fear sneaked in like an unwanted guest. "Mom?" Sarah shifted closer, her small hand finding Evelyn's. "What did he say?" Evelyn swallowed hard, the need to reassure her daughter battling with the truth that felt like poison in her throat. "Just a threat. He thinks he can scare us." "He's wrong," Sarah whispered, though her slight quiver betrayed her. As grandma stood in the doorway, the flickering light behind her offered the only warmth in the chilled air. Her eyes narrowed slightly, keenly aware of the weight pressed against them. "Dear, let me take a look at that message," she said, her voice steady, yet tinged with a mother's concern. Evelyn hesitated, but something in Grandma's tone pushed her to pull the phone closer, turning it for her to see. The older woman's brow furrowed as she read the message. Evelyn noticed a grim light sparking in Grandma's eyes. "Anyone can send a message, Evelyn." Grandma's voice was calm, but it carried the force of a storm. "What matters is how we respond." "What's your plan?" "I don't know," Evelyn admitted, feeling small under her mother's watchful gaze. "I thought maybe we could talk to the police. Maybe get a restraining order, and what if he comes for you before that?" Grandma's words were sharp, yet they bled kindness. "We need to be ready. We can't wait for someone else to protect us." Evelyn considered this, dread curling in her stomach. "What do you think we should do?" Grandma stepped closer, her presence filling the air with a sense of purpose. "We prepare. We fortify ourselves, and we don't hide. He might think he can intimidate us, but we're stronger together. Let us go inside." The feeling of being enveloped by family flooded back, a reminder of the safe haven she had once known. But the reality of their situation crept back in with each step they took up the porch stairs and through the wooden door. Inside, The living room was filled with the smell of cookies and hot cocoa, memories of childhood dancing in the room's shadows. But instead of comfort, it felt like a heavy reminder of the past. The good times suffocated beneath the threat of Greg's looming presence. "First things first," Grandma said, taking charge. "We need to lock the doors and make sure the windows are secure. Then we talk. I want to know everything. The sooner we understand what we're facing, the better we can fight it." Evelyn nodded and felt the stirrings of loyalty and courage rise within her. "Okay. I'll check the doors." Sarah followed her mother, trailing close behind like a little shadow. As they moved through the house, Evelyn could hear her daughter's whispered conversation with herself. "Everything's going to be okay," Sarah murmured, and the tiny, brave voice pushed a crack into Evelyn's armor of fear. As they secured the last window, Grandma swooped in, handing them both steaming mugs. "Now, let us talk." They settled on the couch, the three of them huddled together, a fortress against the shadows outside. Evelyn shared their story, the moves, the fights, and the day they packed up their lives to escape. Grandma listened intently, her expression never wavering from seriousness. After Evelyn finished, a heavy silence draped over them. "So, he thinks he can control you," Grandma finally said. "But I will not let him." Evelyn felt her chest swell with gratitude and hope, a spark that felt almost foreign but welcoming. "But what can we do? We need to prepare for his retaliation." Grandma leaned forward, a fire rekindling in her eyes. "We can't just wait for him. What do you suggest?" Sarah asked quietly, the unwavering innocence driving home the stakes. Grandma reached for a notepad on the side table. "We make a plan. We use everything we have. And we find allies. There are people in our community who would stand with us." Tension hummed in the air, the fragrance of ambition mingling with fear. Everyone felt the weight of the moment. Would they summon the strength needed to fight back? Then, unexpectedly, Evelyn's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with another message from Greg, more sinister than before. "I will always find you." As uncertainty gripped the room, Evelyn felt the resolve surging. They could become warriors of their own fate. Together, they'd stand against his darkness. But as they gathered strength and brains for what lay ahead, one thought nagged at her: was he truly capable of such threats? What had she unleashed by declaring her freedom? Evelyn's phone lay heavy in her hand, the latest chilling message from Greg still glowing ominously on the screen. The room was thick with tension, the air feeling electric with unspoken fears. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, a rhythmic reminder of their vulnerability. Leaning into the weight of the moment, she felt her family shift closer, a trio against the encroaching darkness. "Mom." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, laced with concern. "What if he really does come? What do we do?" The innocence in her daughter's question struck a nerve. How could she reassure Sarah when her own heart was fraught with uncertainty? Evelyn turned her gaze to Grandma, whose unwavering strength filled the space around them. We fight back," she finally said, surprising even herself. Grandma nodded, expressions of pride and determination etched across her face. "That's the spirit. We can start by contacting neighbors and friends. They'll want to help us. This isn't just your fight, it's our fight." Evelyn felt a flicker of hope igniting within her, rekindled by the fierce love of her family. "We'll need a plan, then," she said, determination growing stronger. "A real plan." Grandma grabbed a notepad and began jotting down ideas. "We'll gather information about Greg. Find out what he knows about us. And then, figure out how to outsmart him," she said, her pen scratching deliberately against the paper. "Knowledge is power, dear." As Grandma wrote, Sarah inched closer to Evelyn. "Can I help?" she asked earnestly, her eyes wide. The eagerness to participate, to fight back, was palpable. "Of course, sweetheart," Evelyn replied, stifling the urge to shield her daughter from the chaos. "Can you write down what you remember? Anything we can use, anything that might help us." With a nod, Sarah grabbed a piece of paper and began jotting down notes, her tiny brow furrowed in concentration. The sight of her daughter wanting to fight, to do something, made Evelyn's heart swell with pride. The night wore on, their kitchen table littered with lists, ideas, and a few hastily drawn maps of the neighborhood. They were deep in discussion when suddenly the lights flickered, casting long shadows around the room. Goosebumps crept up Evelyn's arms. "Maybe we should take turns keeping watch tonight," she suggested, glancing toward the windows. Grandma nodded, her gaze steady. "Good thinking. The more alert we are, the safer we'll feel." Just then, the phone buzzed again, breaking their concentration. The message read, "You'll regret this." The breath caught in Evelyn's throat. It was a primal threat that hung like a storm cloud over their heads. Panic surged through her, but then she felt Grandma's hand on her shoulder. "Breathe, Evelyn. We deal with it together. Remember, this is our home, and he does not belong here." Her words enveloped Evelyn like a warm blanket, giving her the courage to confront the fear gnawing at her insides. "You're right," she breathed. "We won't let him create chaos in our lives anymore." With newfound resolve, Evelyn looked at her family, their faces illuminated by the warm candle flame flickering in front of them. They were more than just a team, they were a fortress. And together, they would defend their home against the shadows. "Tomorrow, we start reaching out," Evelyn declared, tightening her grip on the notepad. "We'll gather our allies, friends, neighbors, anyone who will stand with us. He will see that he picked the wrong family to mess with." Sarah's face broke into a determined smile, and Grandma's expression radiated pride. But as the heaviness of their situation loomed, an unsettling thought flickered through Evelyn's mind. What if Greg wasn't just threatening her? What if he was willing to go further? With her heart racing again, she realized they were gearing up for a battle. Would they have the strength to protect each other when the moment came? Just as they steadied themselves for the night ahead, the doorbell rang. A small wave of dread washed over them. Who could it be? Evelyn exchanged a look with Grandma, their unspoken bond solidifying their resolve. It was time to face whatever lay waiting on the other side. And just like that, with anticipation and dread intertwining, they prepared to open the door. Would it be salvation or confrontation? Evelyn felt the weight of the uncertainty resting heavily on her shoulders. The doorbell echoed through the house like an urgent drumbeat. She glanced at Grandma, who nodded, her expression resolute. It was time to confront whatever awaited them outside. With shaking hands, Evelyn approached the door. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she grasped the doorknob and turned it slowly. The door creaked open, revealing not the storm of Greg's fury but the familiar, concerned faces of their neighbors, Melanie and Paul. "Evelyn!" Melanie exclaimed, her voice warm yet taut with urgency. "We were worried. We heard about what happened. Can we come in?" Relief washed over Evelyn, flooding her heart with warm gratitude. "Yes, come in." She opened the door wider, ushering them inside. Sarah clung to her side, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. The solidarity of community surrounded them, reinforcing the bubble of protection that had started to form. Once inside, Melanie wasted no time. "Your mother told us everything. You three shouldn't be alone right now. We're here to help." Paul stepped forward, his demeanor calm. "Evelyn, we want to support you. You don't have to face Greg alone." Evelyn felt the warmth of their concern fill the room. This was the embrace of community she had yearned for, and suddenly, she could see a path forward. She looked at Sarah, whose expression brightened at the sight of familiar kindness. "Thank you," Evelyn said, her voice steady yet heartfelt. "We need all the help we can get." As they settled around the table, talk surged with urgency and determination. Stories stirred, tactics emerged. Melanie and Paul expressed their willingness to inform others in the neighborhood, spreading the word of what had happened, ensuring everyone could be vigilant if Greg dared to cross their threshold. With the flood of ideas shared between them, something inside Evelyn grew stronger, like a fire igniting beneath the ashes. She realized she was no longer just fighting for herself or her daughter, but for everyone in that room who stood together against fear. "Let us put our plan into action," Evelyn declared. "We need to organize a community meeting. Show our strength and let Greg know he can't control us." In that moment, a transformation sparked in her. She wasn't just a victim anymore, she was a warrior. Sarah and Grandma nodded in agreement, and so did Melanie and Paul. They all leaned in, energized by the determination that connected them like threads woven into a tapestry of resistance. As discussions flourished, Evelyn felt the weight that had pressed down on her lift fractionally with every laugh, every shared strategy, and every reassuring smile. The reality of Greg's threat lingered, yet it transformed into a motivation, a rallying point that gave each of them purpose. Time slipped by as they formed alliances, gathering their resources and taking notes. With each passing moment, Evelyn's heart filled with gratitude for this new family bond she had since neglected. Eventually, when the scheduled meeting came to a close, Grandma said, "Evelyn, you should all rest. Tomorrow is the first day of the fight." The group exchanged hugs, promises, and resolute pledges to stand together. As Evelyn and Sarah climbed upstairs, the soft glow of the moon peeked through the window, painting their faces in silver hues. "Do you think we can really win?" Sarah whispered, her small hand in Evelyn's. Evelyn paused, taking a deep breath. "I know we can, sweetheart. We're not alone. We have each other, our family, and our friends. Fear doesn't stand a chance against love and support." With the comfort of those words, they slipped into the cocoon of the night, sleep wrapping around them like a gentle embrace. Whatever darkness awaited them, they would face it as one. The next morning brought invigorating energy. The community meeting buzzed with determination, an electric atmosphere hanging in the air. Faces filled the room, each carrying a shared purpose, united against oppression. Evelyn stood at the front, speaking for everyone who had suffered beneath Greg's grip. Her voice was steady and certain, echoing off the walls, a siren of strength. "Together, we'll show Greg that family and community are more powerful than fear. We will not live in the shadows any longer. This ends now." Her words surged through the room like wildfire, igniting hearts and minds. As the crowd erupted in applause, Evelyn felt tears prickling at the edges of her eyes. She held Sarah's hand tightly, feeling her daughter's unyielding strength beside her. Outside, the dawn broke brightly, a promise of hope shining through. Together, they had turned fear into power, and as they stood united, Evelyn knew that no matter what Greg did next, they would never be alone again. The battle lay ahead, but they were ready. And they would face it, stronger than ever. So as the sun rose, illuminating their new path, Evelyn felt an unwavering force within her, a conviction forged through love, resilience, and a commitment to embrace the freedom that was rightfully theirs. Now, let us continue this journey together. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that uplift and empower. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can thrive. Comment below and share your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this ending. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who also need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the message of love and resilience.